I mean, they're just not, I mean, they're not willing versus what they're able, but not willing.
Yeah, I mean, they can afford something, but they're just not willing to do it based on they didn't expect the value. Is that kind of what I'm understanding, or is it
Well, some of them,
they really just
might
can't
get the
afford it?
impression, some of them might get the impression that it's not, it's not something they can afford, period. And a lot of mine have been small things where they're not people who are talking about, replacing 5 to 15 windows or anything. They literally just had, it was just a door. Approximately person said, hey, like, you give me a quote, and it was a door, or a window or two or something. So these were not big people and not wealthy homes or anything like that, wealthy people, but they just flat out just said that it's not in the budget. We can't afford to do that, because I always try to get them with payments and financing, and try to see how we can figure, and I try to get them to say, well, what could you afford and stuff, and what they can afford is, like 50% of what the payment is, and they're almost apologetic about it. So I'm sure some of them are blowing smoke, but some of them seem pretty sincere.
Okay. Nick and Mark, what advice do you have to give to him? Both of you guys have had quite a bit of success over the couple of years. What advice would you have to give to him when you run into that? And what do you think might be that he could do to help lessen that objection from coming out? I mean, ultimately, we do want to get it's yes or no. And if they can't afford it, is a good thing. But sometimes that could be a stall, just that way they don't have to move forward. So what would you guys say to that?
I'll jump in. So I think one of the things that you've always preached to us is, even if it's one door, don't make it a door, make it a project. So really blow up how much construction and manpower and hours that this thing takes. Continue to call it a project versus a door, and continue to stress the level of difficulty it is to get that thing out, get the new one in right, have it last for life, and be something that doesn't have to be done twice. And so I think that that's a good one. Just trying to really emphasize the size of the project more than just what the product is.
I love it.
And then, sorry, a truck went by. And then also just explaining, the whole you get what you pay for thing. And if you go to Home Depot and you knock on one of their doors, it sounds like a Fisher-Price toy. And so just kind of going through the whole what's out there and being real straight with them about what they want to do for their house, because you don't want to go cheap on a remodel project, or else you're definitely going to feel it later.
Right.
Great.
Nick, that was good, especially the part about the project and building value, because I know when someone is desperately trying to find a way to do it versus just saying I can't afford it. And I know that there have been too many times where people, I hadn't gotten them to feel enough pain and enough value, and get excited enough about the solution that there weren't enough times that they were really working with me to try to figure out a way to make it happen. So to create that value in it, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I find that people shut down when they see price sometimes, and then it is hard to kind of reel them back in and just talking about the reality of how we're going to do this. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the big ones would be the commitment of that they are going to do it for sure. And then from there, and that they want to do it right. So if you compare those two commitments, then all of a sudden price is something that we have to just figure out. And so then maybe asking them, can you put 30% down so we can knock this payment down, and starting to talk about splitting the job. So then it's not either cash or finance, it's cash and finance.
Okay. Well, that, I just listening to you and obviously other things that Dustin said is that I don't think I'm doing a good enough job of creating enough pain and value. So I think I'm doing some, but not enough yet.
I think what Nick's trying to say on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, is, you have to make each project feel like it's a unique, special circumstance. And it can't just be they're buying a door and then any door is going to work. Then it's like commodity, right? And, you know, on yesterday's call, we talked about, you know, the difference between like a pager and an iPhone. And we kind of use that little analogy with him.
Right. Right.
When you get into that aspect, people sometimes think that anything's going to work and be better than what they currently have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our whole job is when we're in there is to take them on that. So whether it's a door, talk about how racked the door is, talk about basically the hinges, talk about the seal plate, talk about, you know, the reason why, how many times that door is going to be used in a year, right? You know, how many times the average door actually can take being open and closed. A door is one of the hardest things to install inside a house. You know, 1 out of every 25 installers actually knows how to install a door. And then statistics tell us that basically 9 out of 10 doors walk away day one without a warranty. When we look at everything that's got to be accomplished on your job, this isn't an easy project by any means. Because 9 out of 10 times, how important is a warranty to you? You know, and kind of get into that building up, right? Not to mention, you know, try to price impression them. If you look at basically a door, for instance, right, is they say a door is 2% resale value of the entire house. In the right nature, you'll return almost 102 to 118% of everything that you put back inside of that door. So that's the cool thing is a door is something, if it's done correctly, they get back that rate of return almost right away. But if they're thinking about it like an expense and not an investment, not to mention, you know, the HUD and US Department of Energy tell you 14% of your energy loss is right through your front door. You got to think you got only a couple doors, and in your house you have basically, sometimes 20, 30 windows inside of these things. But there's only a limited amount of doors. So when you look at the doors being 14% compared to 38% heat loss on the windows, that makes a big majority of basically getting the, you know, losing a lot of heat and cooling from the house. So you can kind of do that to make a little bit of difference. Not to mention building value with that Pro V app. Do you currently use the visualizer on the Pro V app, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, so you take a picture of their house and then plug the door.
I haven't every time, but most of the time I have. Yes.
Okay. I would tell you almost every time you should do that.
Okay.
It takes basically the thoughts out of their brain and it shows them what it's already going to look like. And it's like a puppy dog clothes, right? You heard the puppy dog clothes back in the day? They take ownership of that, right? And then remember, when you walk in most of these houses, especially proximity to events, like Nick kind of said, you got to get them to commit. This is a project they're definitely going to get done someday. Because if you don't get that, then literally they might tell you, well, we're just going to probably keep what we have because we can't afford to do anything right now. You know, but ultimately, if you're talking about a single door, I mean, people can afford it. Even if you put it 120 months, you know, you're talking $5,000 doors, what, you know, $50, $60 per month payment. So when you look at that aspect, you know, almost anybody can call it $50, $60. Why else would they call you out if that's the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, you gotta make sure you're building that project to be unique and why it's a special circumstance. Same thing if you walk into somebody that's got vinyl windows in their house now, and they're thinking they can get away with just doing vinyl windows because they have vinyl in the rest of all other 3 sides of the house. Well, you make something about the other side of the house feel unique on why it's special on that side, and we have to do something different than they did on the rest of the house. So again, that feels unique, right? Not to mention, you know, the price impressioning sheet that we walk through. Mm-hmm. You gotta constantly have that in front of their face. Right? That means you gotta move that piece of paper, and as you got that piece of paper, keep it in front of their face again. Well, let me ask you, if you didn't choose these, which one of these would you choose? You know, because there's a price impressioning sheet for doors, and there's one for windows too. And if it's an entry door, look on your cost versus value on the back of those sheets, and it shows you a grand entry system. You know, grand entry systems are quite a bit expensive, which is going to give them at least a price impression for you to have a starting point. And a lot of times that's for mid-range. So you look at a mid-range grand entry system, you know, you can ask them, do you think what we're showing you is a low quality, an average quality, or a high quality door? And for your situation, your house, what do you think you need? You know, so really build those fear tactics, dude. I love talking about 1 out of every 25 Windows installers actually knows how to install a door, and 9 out of 10 doors walk away without a warranty. A lot of that thing is building the pain and the urgency of it. But again, if they're not bought into the inspection, remember how important we talked about the inspection being?
Mm-hmm.
If they're not bought into the inspection, literally, then literally what happens is the rest of the presentation is a yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. We got to try to find that way to make that happen.
But what was that price impression sheet on doors? I don't remember that one.
Cash, will you hand me the price impression sheet? If not, Mark, can you help him real quick? Yeah.
The video isn't working, so I can't see it if you're showing anything.
Nick, put yours on pause real quick, right? And then hold on. There you go. Can you see it now?
I can, yes, I can see it now, and I don't recognize that for some reason. Huh.
Yeah, it's for patio doors, but you can also use it for entry doors too.
Okay? Right. Is that something that someone could scan to me an email? Or maybe send it out to the group, but maybe I'm not the only one that hasn't seen it.
Scan an email, or basically a picture scan email? Yeah, Mark Moore's doing it right now.
Thanks, Mark.
That's a little form you can use to help kind of build the value up in the doors, right?
Uh-huh.
Second, let's talk about the second one, because affordability, again, push the payment. One of the things I heard, which was kind of a mistake, is if you're asking them what they can afford, but you're not giving them a range, then they're going to go for half, right? Kind of we talked about yesterday. I'm asking you, John and Mary, if 535 isn't affordable, what would be affordable? It would be more like, 500, or basically would it be more like 475, 500? What are you thinking? Because we want to make sure that basically we're giving them a range to go down to.
Mm-hmm.
And if you guess 450 to 500 or 475 to 500, then they might take it down another $100, but they're never going to go down half. And they do go down half at that point. They really look at you with sincere eyes and tell you that's all they can afford. Then maybe it is what they can afford, but at least you have a number to try to get to.
Mm-hmm. What do you do when you go ahead?
No, right, go ahead.
What do you do when I've had an inordinate number of people, surprisingly, who have said, we don't do monthly payments. We either pay for it all or we don't do it.
Nick, do you use anything on that, Mark Lance? I want to get your guys' input before I go throwing in. You guys got anything? Nick? Nick, you there? I muted you, so you might.
Yeah, sorry. It took like 10 seconds to unmute, I think. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you
yes.
So sometimes I go down a path of, with cash, with dollar amounts of this size, of course, people want to, avoid interest and avoid monthly payments. But for cars and home remodels and things, it's really normal to take on a monthly payment and make it comfortable in your life, in your world. And that's just pretty much what 85 or 90% of people do. It's really rare that people are paying cash for these projects. And then maybe just go down the path of, if you were to pay cash, is that comfortable, and get them off of that thought process. I know Dustin asked that question a lot. Are you comfortable paying that much cash? They'll say no, and then take it back to the payment.
Yeah.
Right. Are we still able to offer the 36 month?
Right now, until they tell me it's gone, I'm going to let you guys do it.
Got it. Okay.
But the other thing, Mike, is, Nick, you bring up a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm going to mute you one more time so you can see my face. But so when you get into that stage, Mike, and Mark Lance, do you have anything to add? Mark, do you got anything to add?
Yes, along the same general lines, people don't pay cash for their homes. It's just so darn expensive. And in my case, because I have a lot of vehicles and my home insurance and everything like that, that's a monthly payment for me too. I can't pay the whole premium for the whole year for all the vehicles I have. So that's a monthly payment. And you get your mortgage or your rent, whatever that situation, the mortgage. And there are a lot of things that you pay monthly. Your utility bills, insurances, I think, are the biggest things. Vehicle You know, when you're driving a 40, 50, $60,000 car, you're either leasing that or buying that on a per month basis.
Right.
So,
Good examples, and especially since we have with the 36-month no interest, they don't have to worry about interest.
All right.
Am I unmuted right now?
Yeah, you're unmuted.
Okay. I remember in the beginning you would always have us saying something along the lines of, you know, I know you didn't expect this project to be this much, but what's the value of your home? You know, is it between $800 and $1 million? Windows and doors is a big chunk of that. And so when you start to think about the value of your home, it makes more sense of why a door is $10,000 or 10 windows is $20,000. How do we get to $1 million? And these things aren't cheap.
Exactly right. So when you look at that, Mike,
Mm-hmm.
when you take an average build of a house, right? The average build of a house, literally, they put 10 to 15% in the cost of the house for windows and doors, right? So if you don't want to put the same builder grade stuff you have in through there, experts tell you should probably put closer to about 20% back into your house to 25% of that, right? And a lot of times, even if you roll price on an $800,000 house, even if you're $80,000, you're still you're still at 10% of the total cost of the house, which is what it would cost in today's market, 10 to 15% to put windows and doors inside their home. So if you think of this stuff on average, we're really, nothing's out of line. Well, what they're thinking about is they're trying to treat it like commodity, and that's what you got to do a better job of, it sounds like, is getting yourself out of allowing them to think of you like a commodity. And if they get you on that commodity side of it, they get down to the end of it, it's about affordability. They don't have a big enough perception, right? Think about it. People, like we talked about before, pay insurance every day. You know, they pay homeowners insurance, dental insurance, medical insurance, you know, optical insurance, car insurance, life insurance. We're insurance to death. And the reason we have that is for that peace of mind guarantee, right? So at the end of the month, if you add up all your insurances, it generally ends up for an average family anywhere between $800 on the absolute cheapest up to sometimes like $1,500, right? You take $800 on the cheapest means each year you're paying $9,600 just for peace of mind guarantee, right? And if you don't write it, if you don't use that insurance at all, are they cutting you a check to give you anything back? Or is that gone forever?
Gone forever.
Over the course of 5 years, if you're paying $9,600, do you think your insurance cost is going to go down or it's going to continue to keep rising?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at that aspect, $9,600 over 5 years, you know, you're over 50 grand right there just for peace of mind guarantee over the next 5 years, right? So we're talking about a project that's blank, whatever it is. And then you can actually reduce to the ridiculous and show them what they're paying per day. So say it's a $7,200 project, right? And then they were expecting to pay $4,000. So really you're talking the difference of $3,000 you have to sell there, not $7,000, right? If they were thinking $4,000 and you're $7,200, you're trying to sell $3,200 worth of difference, right? So if I can show them a way to make that make sense, it's gonna make logically everything happen a little bit better, right? So if I take 3,200 and I take it based on that same pretense, so I take 3,200, and let's just say I can either take it for a year or I can take it based over the 5 years. So I take 3,200 divided by 5. That means that's about $640 per year I'd be paying different over and above what I currently have. If I take that divided by 52 weeks, that means that's $12.30 a week. It is that I've got to basically make up or do some kind of savings, which per day is $1.75 per day is what the difference between you having the windows you want and need or the door you want and need and deserve, and then basically putting something cheap in. Could you imagine 5 years from now if you had to turn around and pay for the same product to do it again, not to mention what damage it does to your house, not to mention with inflation what it's going to do to your pocketbook. But for really $1.75 a day, is there something you currently spend $1.75 a day on or more that you could cut back on to get the windows you want and deserve?
That's good.
That's reducing the ridiculous. That's called
Right.
reducing the ridiculous.
Well, you know, too often I'm hearing them tell me exactly what I want to hear, and that is, wow, you guys, we absolutely have to have your kind of installation. yes, it sounds like your Pella windows are the best on the market, and yes, they do this and that, and yes, your warranty is the best, and your company is someone we can trust and isn't going to go away. And wow, you were so professional. But then when it gets down to making the decision, I'm not hearing them fight hard enough to try to make it happen, with me trying to get them to consider that. And so I'm just not doing a good enough job to get them hurting and create that value to get them there. So, I mean, they're almost there, but unfortunately not close enough too often.
Yeah. So I think what happens sometimes, man, is we get into that rut when you start hearing that stuff, buddy. What it generally means, and Nick or Mark, you can step in there if you want to. What it generally means, though, is you haven't tied the pain. You haven't tied why that product is needed on their house and their situation. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like if I go shopping for a car, Mark, and I really want a new Mercedes, but while I'm looking at Mercedes, I'm also going to go look at a GMC. I'm going to go look at a Chevy, a Toyota. I'm going to go look at all these other brands. And at the end of the day, I see something that's got 4 wheels, a body, and it's going to get me from point A to point B, right? Do I really need, even though I want the Mercedes, do I need it, or can I get away with buying a Toyota and getting back and forth for a more economical price? Right? Both of them meet their needs, and both will get them from point A to point B, just some have better luxury items, right? So if you let them treat buying windows or doors like a luxury item and not just something they need and want, then what's going to happen is you're putting yourself in a box where now you become a commodity, and you're just a higher priced commodity with more options, colors, and choices, and things that they would like to have, but maybe not need to have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that's really hitting the nail on the head and this part of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I almost guarantee it's it. Based on what you told me the objection is, I can take your objection you give me and reverse engineer and tell where it's broken down. Mm-hmm. So that's what that sounds like to me. It is they're treating you like a commodity. So you have to remember when you do that inspection, why is every piece of the window you're showing or door you're showing relevant to what's going on in their house? Not why it's just so good and why it's so awesome. Why do they need that in the house? And if they didn't have it, it wouldn't fix the problem. Right? Mm-hmm. They got to
it gets back to something that you pointed out about me, and that is that I'm really good at getting someone to intellectually agree with me. I'm a good communicator, and I give them good information. I take them through a process of thinking it through, of seeing their problem, seeing the solution. It's a great solution and stuff like that, but I haven't involved them enough in the process for them to take the emotional ownership. I've got them to agree intellectually, and they're convinced intellectually, but that isn't emotionally connected enough for when it comes down to rolling price and getting the price slap in the face, that they have enough emotion attached to it to want to work with me to try to find a way.
Okay, that's probably a very good thing. They're not taking ownership of it, of the solution or the problem. Maybe the problem's not hurting bad enough, right?
I think intellectually they think it would be a great solution, but they're not emotionally attached to the desire, that because I didn't use questions along the way rather than to draw them out and get them saying it, as opposed to me taking them through the process to intellectually agree.
It sounds like to me probably an inspection, if I had to guess, if I were sitting right with you there,
mm-hmm.
If I were sitting right there with you, I would talk about, Nick, text me something. Hold on. Nick, pop yourself back on, buddy. That's really good. I want it to come out of your mouth. Here.
Hey, so I was already thinking of this for the price stuff, and then it rolled right into the emotion stuff. So scare pictures. So with price, if sometimes I've had it where I show enough scare pictures of mold and damaged drywall where all of a sudden they don't care about price anymore. They just don't want that, whatever I'm showing them. And then also when you rolled into, I'm not drawing the emotion, I'm getting them to intellectually look at this thing linear and they understand, but they're not feeling it. I think scare pictures can kind of get that visceral emotion rolling where all of a sudden now what you said that makes sense is scaring them into, wow, this is real. I can see the mold. I can see the rotting wall. And that can draw some emotion and make them want to actually make a decision based on both facts and emotion.
Good.
100%.
Good.
I used
Thank you.
pictures when I was in the house. I had like 4 or 5 go-to pictures that would be out at every single appointment. Just because when they saw the picture, I knew they were emotionally attaching it, and I was showing them how there might be signs. It might not be there yet, but we want to get ahead of it before it gets to that point. Wouldn't you agree? Because you're almost there. If it's not there already. That's great, Nick. That is fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick.
Do you understand? Do you understand what he's talking about?
Absolutely.
All right, so repeat it back then. What do you?
Yeah. Well, during my presentation, when I'm making the points about the water management systems and how they break down over time because of this and that naturally and stuff, and that, what happens, what are the implications of that, and hey, all the different things, instead of verbally trying to get them to feel it and understand it, to include more pictures that will heighten the impact.
Okay, that's exactly right. And you should break those out while you're doing your inspection. Nick, do you break them out while you're doing your inspection, or you're taking them through the options? How do you do that?
It just kind of depends on the flow. I pull them out all throughout the project. So if I end up talking about something that I have a picture that's close to, then I grab that picture. So whether it's fogged up glass, rotting drywall, mold, a door hanging half out. So I just kind of let the conversation lead me into my pictures, and it's not super structured when I pull it out or where, but I just kind of, if the conversation gets us to a spot and I have a picture, then I take a second and make sure I'm adding a visual with my verbal.
Okay.
That's sweet. All right, let's tackle number 2 real quick. Nick, I want to do first, and I'll share my tidbit. Never make a decision until we take time to discuss it. Between the two of them.
So that's a tough one.
Yeah.
If somebody hits me with that and they say, well, we need time to discuss this, I will usually try to separate us from the other companies with those 3 things I talked about in the meeting. So no subcontractors, you want our reflash install, and you want your installation warranty. And then if they ask me for time, I will usually say something like, I'm going to have to take 2 runs to the car anyways. So let me take some of this big stuff to the car, give you guys a chance to beat this up because there is a discount on this first visit. And then I'll come back in and see what we can, and then I'll try to tie it up, something like that. I'll remind them of the first visit discount, remind them of the reasons why they know that they want to go with us, but then I will give them a chance to talk, but not too long. I'll pretty much go out to the car and try to come right back in. And then they at least know that they didn't, because some people don't want to get sold while you're just sitting right there, that
right.
You can see it on their face. And so if they ask me, if they say they don't make a snap decision, they need to talk about it, then I'll give them the chance right then. And Jeremy said something good about how, me and my wife can figure out anything in 15 or 20 minutes. So let me go dig into my emails for a little bit and you guys talk about it. And then remind them on the way out. A quick elevator pitch on the way out.
Yeah, I think very good point. So I agree with that. I think the thing, Mike, when you look at, I'm gonna mute you, Nick, so it shows me real quick. Nick's spot on there. I think what you have to do though, and Nick, you should listen to this too, based on what you said, is first you got to isolate it, right? You got to isolate what you're trying to overcome. The overcome is, they never make a decision until they have time to discuss between the 2 of them, right? So you got to isolate that. There's 2 different objections there in the same objection, right? Never is one. And when you hear the word never, that's a trigger word, right? That means that they made a bad decision before, so they always want to discuss it between the 2 of them. It means that they've been pressured into something, or basically they made a bad decision on the first day they bought something, which is why they always take time to look at it, right? So that would be one section of it you could object. But what you want to do first is you want to isolate it. Say, John and Mary, hey, completely get it. Thanks for sharing. Sounds like to me the only reason we're not moving forward is the fact that you need to think about it. Is that really it? Nothing else? So first, you got to go there, because you got to get out the truth first before you go outside, because you don't want to leave the table if you really don't know what the real objection is, right? That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because again, like Nick said, you want to be able to step outside and give them time to think, because you really got to take your samples out and everything, right?
Right.
What I would ask them, I said, so obviously, guys, I'm going to try the nice people like yourself thing real quick. I'm going to say, nice people like yourself, to need time to talk about it between the two of them. It really doesn't mean they don't love the company. They don't love the product or solution. I think we found all that, right? Was there anything you're willing to give up? No. You love the warranty and serviceability that we're offering too. So it's not the dream style side at all that you need to think about. Come on, level with me. It's the money, right? So if you did think about the money, which way would you be going? Would you be using the 36 months no interest at this, or how would you be paying for the project? And I'm going to try to take it right back to the money again.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about it, what do you plan on talking about? And I guess if you've made a decision, when would you make that decision? Well, we'd need a couple days. So what is today? Today is Friday, or today is Thursday. So by Saturday, would you guys know the route you're going to go? And I want to take that pressure off them real quick. See what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, we would know by Saturday. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. Sounds like to me, for sure, you'd know something by Saturday. Can I ask you, with all the information that was shared for you, what would you know different on Saturday that you don't know today, except for giving you a few minutes to talk about it?
Mm.
So I think really what you're telling me comes down to three things, really, a reason why you should or should not do it. And I'm going to step outside and give you guys a few minutes to talk. I'm never going to ask permission or ask them if they want me to. I'm going to step outside and give you guys a few minutes to talk, because I think we can come together with a yes or no today, right? Three things. Do you need it? I think you guys will know the answer to that. Number two, do you want it? And the third most important thing, can you afford it? Or really, in your case, with what we shared with you, can you afford to put it off any longer? So if you answer yes to all those three things, I'd love to come back in and get you started and welcome you to Dream Star Remodeling. And if it's not a fit, it's okay too. We'll come in and shake hands and part friends. But I want to give you guys a fair chance to talk about it for yourself, because I know me and my wife would want you out of the room so you're not staring at us. And I'm going to respect that also. So can I count on you if I walk outside? Can you guys talk for a few minutes and give me a decision when I come back in?
Good.
That's how I would do it. That's how I would do it. And if they say, no, Mike, we're not going to do it. We never make a decision on the same day. We decided that before you even came in through here. Then we're going to roll into that. So it sounds like to me, the reason you're never going to is probably because you made a bad decision before, right? Is that correct? Yeah, we did. And we're not doing it again. I can't blame you. It sounds like it was bad. What was it? We bought a car. We bought a water softener. We bought blah, 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 blah. That's horrible. I said, I agree with you. If I went that situation, I wouldn't want to do that either. But can I ask you an honest question? Have you thought about something a day, a week, a month, maybe a year, and when you made that decision, didn't have the most desired outcome either? Yeah, so I don't really think it's anything to do with the time frame you make the decision, just about how educated you are when you do make that decision, right? Because let's face it, if I lined up 10 contractors today and I picked the third one on the 13th day, would it change the decision I make based on the time frame? Would it be the contractor I chose? It would be the contractor I chose. So again, really, the only thing keeping you from moving forward is not the time frame, guys. It's about the contractor you chose. You did say you're 100% confident, trusting Dream Star Remodeling. So let me ask you these three questions. Do you need it? John, Mary? Yes. Do you want it? John and Mary? And number three, can you really afford not to do it? John and Mary? See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot to take in right there, but those are that close has been recorded multiple times, and I'm recording it right now too. So you can use that same thing. You can use this video if you want to help you.
Yes. Good.
But That's how I would take it. That's a lie, dude. When they tell you that, I never make decisions till we have time to discuss it together. Oh, great. Walk out to the car. I got a couple calls to make anyways. Fantastic. What they're really telling you, there's two things. Either it's not affordable or they made a bad decision. That's all it is. It's either not affordable yet, you haven't found a way to make it affordable, and it's not going to do it. So think about this, Mike. If you leave and you agree with them, at 10% more expensive, is it going to be any more affordable?
Right.
Is it?
No, not at all.
Good. I needed to hear you say it because it can't be, right? So the fact that you're leaving and going to let them pay 10% more when they know they can pay 10% on the initial visit, that's it. Remember, we got to protect ourselves against social media. If we tell them that visit's only good on the same day, and we come back basically 3 days later and give them that same discount, what did we just set ourselves up for? So we want to make sure, again, we can't be nice out of the house. It's either yes or no, especially if you're pre-closed. And you do pre-close, Mike, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So let me hear your pre-close. You don't have to romance on me, but what's your pre-close?
I don't know. I'm spacing it. I'm going brain dead.
So what do you do before you roll price? What do you have to say?
Well, I basically go through all the things that we're going to do for them and why it was that was important to them and what we went through and stuff like that. And then you can, based upon that, here's what the investment would be. And I think you can find why it is that we go ahead.
This is something big, right? John and Mary, is there anything besides price or payment that's going to keep you from moving forward today? Are you saying that?
Yeah, but I'm doing that sometimes not right before. I'm already during the leading up to the rolling the price. I'm already including that. Sometimes it's right before, but I get that out. Yes.
Okay, you need to make sure that's crystal clear when you ask that question, guys. So it sounds like to me, there's nothing besides price or payment that's going to keep us from moving forward today. Is that correct, John, Mary?
Correct.
Yes, yes. If they tell you that, question 2 should never come up. The people that are legitimately going to do that say, no, I told you I'm never making a decision on the same day. Then it'll come up before you even throw price. But on that one, if they give it to you after you ask that question, that's a smoke screen and a stall. So the fastest way to get through that then, if you got the yes on nothing besides price or payment, is, come on, guys, level with me. It's just more money you expect to spend today. Is that correct? That's what really you guys need to talk about? Go at them right there, Mike. Don't sugarcoat, agree, step away. Just sit into there. Smile at them. Know that it's about price when they give it to you. That's it. Because I'd much rather hear number 1 than number 2, right? Number 1, we gave you some good ideas to get through it, but number 2, that's a pure smoke screen. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. I'm not trying to beat you. I'm just telling you that.
No. I'm thinking it while we're talking. I'm thinking through the different situations I've been in and where I could have done it better and different. And I know that I'm caving too easily.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. So again, you got to make sure you're putting basically got to make sure you're putting that, what's the real objection inside of it. Mm-hmm. Nick, do you got anything to add to that?
I feel like we've kind of, which objection again? Is this still the, we need to talk about it?
Yeah, that's one we're kicking out right now.
If they need to talk about it still, I mean, it's like you said, well, what do you need to talk about? I know it's the price. And I think a lot of times we need to talk about it coupled with we need to get other estimates. And so sometimes that one's kind of vague where they're like, you know, we need to talk about it and we haven't talked to anyone else. That I get that a lot. But I think we already hit it where try to isolate the money and give them a chance to talk about it and remind them of the first visit discount and all the reasons why another company isn't going to be a choice. So if they know they're going to do it, they know they like our options or they need our options. And then it comes down to, don't you want to take advantage of this first visit discount? Or I think one of the problems too is asking for a yes or a no on the project instead of a first phase or the whole thing. So most times we're looking at more than one unit. And so it's a good practice to be doing, okay, I'm going to let you guys talk about doing a first phase or the whole thing. Not, I'm going to let you guys talk about, do you want to do it or not? And then that kind of sets you up. Yeah.
Great point. Either or, do you want to do the whole starter pack? Do you want to do the whole package or just start with the starter package there?
Yeah, talk about that. And then when you come back in, it's giving you a little more time, a little more meat to chew on, and the meeting's not over. And so I find if it's, do you want to do it or not, most people would choose not just because they're scared, even though it's the right thing that they need to do. So maybe focus hard on, when you're looking at more than one unit, finding which unit's the most painful one, getting them up off the table to look at that unit again, and then let me give you some time to talk about whether you want to just attack this first phase or if you want to go ahead and knock the whole thing out. And then hopefully they're talking about that versus talking about, do we want to do it or not?
We're not putting them in a yes or no answer, we're giving them an alternate choice. Kind of like the payments, right? Do you want to do basically 12 months, no interest, no payment, or what our more savvy customers do, open account at 60 months, no interest? It basically has a $573 a month in the budget. Well, it doesn't. So let me ask you, which would you rather do? $450 or $75? What do you think fits better in the budget? You're given those two options, which gets them to latch onto one of the two. Same thing as a whole project, right? It's not yes or no. It's, do you want to do the starter package or do you want to do this? Which one do you want to start with? That's great, Nick. Exactly right. I forgot. We used to freaking beat the hell out of that all the time.
Thank you, Nick.
Yep.
Did you get something from today?
If you're asking me, absolutely.
Was it helpful?
Absolutely.
Nick, thank you for your input. This has been great. And I like to hear from Nick too, because then it's just not me saying it. So it's
Right.
beautiful to hear it from all angles. So you got some coaching today.
It's good for me too, to just kind of remind myself that stuff is in my head.
And that's why I had you do it, Nick. Everything's by design, baby. So
Yep.
again, appreciate you guys. Let's go ahead and end the call. But Mike, there's some things to work on immediately. I think that if you feel like, and I've heard you did a great job in your presentation, but if you're getting niced out and basically taking the no too fast, now you know how to go back there, right? Remember, take it right back to the money. Oh, fine, I that stuff. Cool thing for you, this is all recorded, so we'll get it out to you so you can listen to it and work it on yourself, okay?
Good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys. Have a good day, man.
Right, bye-bye.
See you on the board.
All right, bye.